Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are taking up the 10th Sutra of the Kaivalyapad. Tasam anaditvam cha ashisho nityatvat. So the question was as a prima facie view was, yes, to become dog in next life, we remember our samskars of the past dog's life. To become cat in next life, we remember or we have the samskars of past cat's life or cobra's life or cow's life or whatever life. But the question is, what about the first ever birth in dog class, cat class, tiger class, cobra class? Where is the support for the first ever life in the various forms of lives? So it's quite a valid question, quite a logical question. There is no supportive samskars or supportive memory or supportive smriti for first ever birth in particular class of life form. So the answer is that metaphysics tells us that we have been eternal beings. And therefore there is no case of, as envisaged by the questioner, what about the first ever birth in particular class? So there is nothing like first ever birth at all. It is because of the anaditvam. We are timeless beings. There is nothing like a commencement or beginning for us. The creation has a beginning. Even when the creation is cyclic, according to our philosophy, we have nothing like first ever birth in any particular class. And therefore, Patanjali answers this prima facie view. Tasam anaditvam cha ashisho nityatvat. All vasanas, all samskars which are support for our birth in particular life class, they are anadi, they are timeless. Marjara vasana, manusha vasana, pakshi vasana, that is of birds, or any vasana which is required for manifestation in life class, such as Ashva vasana, Vyagra vasana, Simha vasana, Kurma vasana, Manav vasana, Deva vasana. All these vasanas are anadi, beginningless. So there is nothing like commencement for our janma, for our punarjanma in any such class of 8.4 million yonis. So there will be always a supporting vasana for any yoni that we are going to take birth and that we had taken birth. Marjara vasana, Vyagra vasana, Simha vasana, Garuda vasana, Manav vasana, Yaksha vasana, Rakshas vasana, Sarpa vasana. There was never ever a case that it was the first birth in that life class. So the manifesting cause was always present. And that is why this sutra got a place in Kaivalyapad. tasam anaditvam cha. Now, secondly, when we are anadi, our ashisha, the vasana is also anadi. Our vasana to exist is called ashisha. That's also called atma vasana. So this has been timeless. Because our atma kamana is nitya. Our atma kamana, our desire to live, is incessant, eternal. So, it is vasana in the form of that I should exist. I should ever exist. I should be ever existing. It should never be a case that I don't exist or I cease to exist. This is what is the meaning of the word ashisha in the sutra. So the vasana to exist has been beginningless. And while we studied the topic of kleshas in the beginning of sadhanapad, where we studied avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, kleshaha sutra. So there we considered this anadi vasana, that I should be ever existing. I should never cease to exist. So atma kamana is nitya. The desire or the tendency to be ever existing has been nitya, and there is no case that it was not there sometimes. When it is nitya, it is anadi. And therefore this question becomes baseless. The question that came as a prima facie view becomes baseless. Anyway, this sutra, we now understand why the sutra has come in the text. We are all not only anadi, but our vasana to exist is also anadi. Not only that we are timeless, but our tendency to be existing, to be existent, is also timeless. So the jiva, the life, is anadi. Manus, manava, human being, is anadi. The jiva srushti is anadi. All life forms are anadi. Well, this is how the question has been answered. But this gives rise to another stronger and formidable question. It is like this. The questioner says, okay, now if you and me are anadi, timeless, our vasanas are anadi. If the vasanas are anadi, then a condition will be also coming with it that we are ananta. Our vasanas are ananta. If we have timeless tendencies, timeless samskars, timeless vasanas, beginningless vasanas, then our vasanas should also become endless. Our vasana to be existing or to be existent also would become endless. Now this is not desirable. So if the vasanas are anadi, vasanas should be ananta. If the vasanas are beginningless, the vasanas should be endless. This is quite logical statement. And then it is not desirable. So our vasanas would become ananta, that is endless. Then if that is the case, how that all the Kaivalya will be coming up? How the Kaivalya can come about? If we are going to exist in some form or the other, the Jiva form, life form, if the tendency to be in life form is eternal, then how do you postulate Kaivalya? How do you postulate Mukti? How do you postulate liberation? So the liberation will become redundant. The means of liberation would become redundant. While Yoga Shastra speaks about Hanopayaha, means for Hanam, means for ultimate freedom, means for liberation, means for Kaivalya, means for Mukti, this would become redundant. So on one hand you say, vasanas are anadi, but you reject the position that the vasanas are ananta. So this is quite confounding, this is quite confusing. So the current sutra that we are dealing with, the 10th one, says that we are anadi. Our vasanas are anadi. But it is not ananta. This is the position of the Hindu philosophy. Therefore, we will have to get out of this riddle that we have got in. So the answer begins like this, that even if our vasanas are anadi, it doesn't imply that our vasanas are ananta. And this is the subject matter of the 11th sutra. This is quite a formidable question, as we have just now considered. But the answer to the question is coming in the 12th sutra. Anyway, in the present sutra, Punarjanmavad, the reincarnation is postulated to be from timeless time, beginningless time. And therefore we go on rotating in the 8.4 million life classes, called 8.4 million yonis. And therefore the rebirth, reincarnation is endorsed, accepted and proved, substantiated as well. We can't reject it. It is so postulated that it is not easy to reject the rebirth, reincarnation. And this is a quite centric aspect of Oriental philosophy, the Hindu philosophy, the philosophy of Sanatana Dharma, the ageless philosophy, the classical philosophy. Now, it is important to understand the philosophical foundation for such postulation. It is not just something to just believe in. It is not right to be having something for belief. But we must also try to understand the philosophical logic behind such postulation which has come our way now. And the Darshana Shastra, all the Darshana Shastras, philosophical systems, particularly the Astic philosophical systems, have presented the basis for such tenet, and it is something not just to be believed, but it is postulated as a reality, it is substantiated as reality, that there is Janma and Janmantar. So birth after birth after birth after birth after birth will be taking place. And to substantiate that, Patanjali here postulates that our vasanas are anadi. The jiva, the life principle, is anadi. From body point of view, we are not anadi. The body has beginning, body has end, body has birth, body has death. But the immanent I, immanent self in it, is indeed eternal. So that is what this sutra is postulating, the Ashisha Nityatvat. Ashishaha has Nityatvam. And what is that Ashisha? That I should ever exist. I should never cease to exist. So Bhashyakara commences, Vyasa commences to comment on this. Mana bhuyam bhuyasam is a very strong opening statement of Vyasa's commentary. Mana bhuvam bhuyasam. It should never happen that I cease to exist. I should never cease to exist. And this is seen in all life forms, which we considered during the Sutra of Abhinivesha. So, the Mrityu is the greatest certainty. What is most certain in our life is the death. And with Mrityu, we feel that our existence seems to be having cessation. And therefore we have the fear of death. We don't want to die. The death is rejected. Because we think with the death, our existence is ceasing, or there is cessation of our existence, which is not true. However, mrityu bhayam, or tendency to evade death, is seen in all life forms. So, mana bhuvam bhuyasam is a statement which is representing that tendency in all life forms, from worms and tiny creatures and insects, etc., to human being, and from human being to even wisest of beings. So the mrityu bhayam, the fear for death, is there for all of us. All of us means all life forms. And one of the reasons for this fear is that we have experienced death countless times. We know that by death there is some aspect or some form of non-existence coming to us. And we have experienced it umpteen number of times, countless number of times, in all our existences, right from time without beginning. And this vasana, this tendency, mana bhuyam bhuvam bhuyasam, is something which is very natural. It is very natural and absolutely common, absolutely universal. that I should never cease to exist. Now, without Purva Janma experience and the death in Purva Janma, there should be no basis for such vasana. So, the cause of Marana Bhayam, the cause of fear for death, is experience of death. And we have experienced death countless times, absolutely infinite numbers of times. Infinite number of times that we have experienced death. And that's why we have dread for death, because we believe that death is causing our non-existence. So without pre-birth, Purva Janma, there should be no basis for such fear, which is universal. And therefore this vasana is very strong, basic, fundamental, and without any exception whatsoever. So this vasana is nitya. This vasana is anadi. One should recall that statement in Bhagavad Gita, Nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha. This is one of the core principles, postulations of Bhagavad Gita. What exists will never cease to exist, and what doesn't exist will never have existence, never had existence, never have existence, never will be existing. What essentially doesn't exist. So non-existent is ever non-existent, and the existent is ever existent. Although seems to be not existing because of latency, because of death, etc., etc. So nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha is a fundamental principle in what our philosophers call it Satkaryavada. Satkaryavadam. And this is Satkaryavadam of Bhagavad Gita, which is a basic tenet, fundamental tenet in Bhagavad Gita. And students of philosophy are well aware of this. So that doesn't mean that bandha, bondage, will be endless. Bandha has been beginningless, but that doesn't mean bandha is endless. That is why moksha is postulated. Moksha is a purushartha. Kaivalya, nirvana, liberation, emancipation is postulated by philosophies. So, bandha which is beginningless doesn't mean the bandha is endless. So you and me might be endless, but that doesn't mean our vasana to exist is endless. It can end with moksha, liberation, jnana, parama jnana. Otherwise, the moksha sadhana or very postulation of moksha will be detonated. And it is not proper that the moksha is not postulated by philosophies and philosophers. And therefore we have a branch of Shastra called Moksha Shastra. If anything impossible, why that would become a science? Why that would become a Shastra? Why that would become a philosophy? So the bandha can be ended. Although bandha is beginningless, bandha can be ended. So the point is, underline this statement, the vasanas are anadi, however vasanas are not ananta. Vasanas are sant, they have end. Now how this is being postulated. What is the basis to postulate this? So, let me give you a little preview to what we are going to discuss subsequently in the next sutra. The vasana, which is beginningless, the vasana is a collocation, is an assembly. Vasana is an assembly. Now, if anything is an assembly of a thing, we can dissemble it. And when you dissemble it, it actually becomes non-existence to that object. Say, for instance, a table, a chair, which might be assembly of so many parts. But the chair ceases to be chair if you dissemble the chair, dissemble the parts of the chair. The table ceases to be table if you dissemble the table, because table itself is assembly of so many parts. So, dissemblement itself would mean the non-existence, particularly when the things are assemblies. So, what is being postulated subsequently is that vasanas are assembly of some components. Their coming together is the factors coming together means it is vasana. So vasana is not one single thing or as an entity. Vasana is an assemblage. Now assembly has been there from time without beginning, but then it can be dissembled. You can dissemble the chair, dissemble the table after 100 years. And when you dissemble it, then it doesn't remain to be that. So there are 4 components of assembly in vasana. These 4 things come together and constitute vasana. And then being an assembly, if they are dissembled, naturally they become almost equal to being non-existent. Although they don't essentially non-exist, but they are as good as non-existent, such as a television assembly, a radio assembly, automobile assembly. They are all made up of several parts. Now, if you disassemble them and put it in a kit, you don't say that this is a car. You say this is a kit of a car. This is a kit of television. This is a kit of a radio. So it becomes a kit. So in that case, radio doesn't exist, television doesn't exist, car doesn't exist. But there is not absolute non-existence of it, because as dissembled part, they all are existing. Similarly, vasana is collocation or coming together of 4 factors. So when there is dissemblement, it is as good as non-existent. And therefore, even if the vasanas are anadi, the vasanas cannot be, need not be, should not be considered as ananta. So if these 4 components of vasanas are separated, then the bandha uchcheda will take place. Bandha uchcheda is most important characteristic of moksha and nirvana and kaivalya. So that will become more clear when we take up the reading of the 11th sutra. Anyway, the Sutrakara, Patanjali here says, Tasam anaditvam cha ashisho nityatvat. And that proves that our vasana to exist is beginningless. The ashisha, that I should be ever existent, in the form of that I should be ever existent, is beginningless. Then if you look at the commentary of scholism of Vyasa, he says, Yeya atma shirma na bhuvam भूयासम इति सर्वस्य दृश्यते सा न स्वाभाविकी मान भुवम भूयासम. So Vyasa further opens out this Ashisha. Now, this vasana is very natural, swabhavika. It is also with a cause. It is there because of a cause. It is sakaranam. There is sakaranatvam and not nishkaranatvam. It is not nishkaran, it is sakaran. Kasmat, Vyasa says, जातमात्रस्य जंतोः अननुभूत मरण धर्मकस्य द्वेष दुःख अनुस्मृति निमित्तो मरणत्रासः कथम भवेत्. Why is it that all of us creatures, all the living creatures have a fear and the tendency that I should never cease to exist and the fear of extinction by way of death? All life forms have it. Vidusho api is clearly mentioned by Sutrakar in the second chapter. So it is not vinakaran, it is sakaran. It is not without cause, it is with cause. And which is existing in all the Jiva Jantu, all living forms, without exception whatsoever. There is Marana Bhaya experience. There is experience of sorrow of death. It is Smriti Purvaka. There is also memory of our countless deaths so far in all our incarnations so far. And this therefore comes by birth itself. The moment life takes the birth, it takes birth with this fear, with this smriti, with this bhaya vasana and smriti as well. Although it has not experienced death in that life, it is just born. It is yet to die after some time. But yet the fear is there. That means it is anubhava. It is experience. So when was the experience? Certainly not in present life. It is not powerful, it is naive, it is stupid to say that there is experience of death in this life itself and therefore there is a fear. Because sometimes there are fearful experiences in our lifetime. And therefore we are afraid of that for lifelong. But death is not an experience of present life. That is ridiculous to believe that way. So in present life we don't have experience of death. Then there is no basis for experience in present life. However, that the bhaya, the fear, is seen to be existing exceptionally in all living creatures. So the jiva, the life form, has dukkha purvaka, smriti purvaka, dvesha purvaka, marana bhaya. So therefore Vyasa says, Kasmat jatamatrasya jantoho ananabhuta marana dharmakasya dvesha dukkha anusmriti nimitto maranatrasaha katham bhavet. So what I just now explained, it is in Vyasa's statement that we have just now considered. There is dukkha purvaka, smriti purvaka, dvesha purvaka, marana bhaya, fear of death. So, nacha swabhavikam vastu nimittam upadatte. So it should not be called vinakarana. We should not be said to be causeless. There is a cause. So it is not vinakarana, it is sakarana. Just for a moment ponder over this. We have fear of so many things in our life. We are dreaded of so many things in our life. We have fear for so many things in our life. And then we say you are unnecessarily afraid. Your fear is unnecessary. Your fear is without any cause, without any reason. So you should overcome this fear. It is vina karana bhaya, and therefore you should come out of it. So point is, we have bhaya of so many things, and therefore we advise someone that your fear is baseless and senseless. For no reason you should be having this fear, and you are unnecessarily fearing about it. So overcome that fear. So marana bhaya is swabhavika, and the swabhavika vastu, that is very, very natural, it has some reason behind that. And which is swabhavika, doesn't need any cause. It's not that your fear should always have some cause or some reason. It can be there without a reason, without a cause even. That is why it is called swabhavika bhayam. Natural fear, natural something which doesn't need any cause as a support. The moment life takes birth, the fear is attached to life form, and primarily the fear is marana bhaya. But this marana bhaya is not swabhavik like this. The moment we take birth as human beings, we all have fear for so many things, including fear of death. It is not like the heat of fire. A fire has heat. The fire is locus of heat. The fire causes heat. It's not like that. Fire doesn't need cause for it to be hot. Fire itself is hot. Similarly is the case of mrityu bhaya. Tasmat anadi vasananu viddham idam chittam nimitta vashat kaschideva vasanaha pratilabhya purushasya bhogayoparvata iti. The chitta is with anadi vasana. And because of that vasana, the life gets all experiences. It gives experiences, and it also gives rise to this vasana of marana bhaya. So that is how this sutra is discussing that aspect. Now, what is this vasana? Vasana is not something, an entity by itself. It is a cause of assembly. Like from car kit, if you have the circuit diagram, you can assemble the car and it becomes a car. Inside the kit, it is not a car. However, it has all parts of car, whereby it becomes automobile only when it is assembled with proper circuit diagram, adhering to the plan of the circuit diagram. Similarly, the vasanas have hetu phala ashraya alambanaihi sangrahitatvat esham abhave tad abhavaha. So, how does this vasana come about? The vasana comes about because of assembly of certain parts. What are these assembly? Hetu, phala, ashraya, alambana. These are four factors which have come together right from time without beginning, and therefore our vasana is anadi. Now, if it is moksha sadhana dissembles it. Moksha sadhana is an engineer of dissemblement. It dissembles this, and that is how moksha is possible. So this is what is mentioned in this sutra. Anyway, let us further try to open out what the sutra is telling or saying or postulating or suggesting. But let us do that in the next session. Enough for the time being. Namaskar all of you.